I'm Wendy Yale. I'm the Vice President of Marketing. I'm going to give you a very brief, so we can get to the demos quickly, very brief overview of Illumio, the company, and then the problem we're solving and our approach to solving the problem. Okay, but before I do that, I want you all to put your imagination hats on and imagine that you've been asked to board a submarine. And you have a choice on the type of submarine that you're going to board. You can board the one that has a lot of space in it with no watertight compartments, but you're counting on that thick hull to keep you safe. Or you can board a submarine that has maybe a little less space, harder to navigate, but it has watertight compartments. So as we go through our presentation today, keep these two images in mind, because what we're going to do is talk about the solution we provide is around micro-segmentation. We have designed our software platform to prevent the spread of breaches, and we do that through a combination of real-time visibility and micro-segmentation, so creating those watertight compartments inside data centers and clouds. And we like to use the submarine as a metaphor because it's a very straightforward picture of if the water gets past the hull, you can either contain the leak or you can let it go through the submarine. Okay. So a little bit about Illumio. We were founded in 2013. We just had our 4-year anniversary in market in October. So we entered into market in 2014. Since that time, we've had rapid growth. For the past 3 years, we've experienced 300% year-over-year sales growth. We have, over the last 18 months, expanded into Asia Pacific, into Europe, where we have offices, and substantially increased our footprint in North America, where we initially launched. We get the question a lot, who do you appeal to? We appeal to every size company, every size vertical. We establish an early foothold with financial services. We've expanded into healthcare, media, law firms, just any type of vertical you can imagine, we have appeal there, and every size company. Today we're going to focus much more heavily on scale in larger organizations. But ask the questions if you want about the type of companies that we do engage with. Okay. All right. So I just want to talk about the state of cybersecurity. And there's a lot of different variables that we can talk about when you're looking at the state of cybersecurity. Today we want to focus on 2 of them. The first one is just the rapid, dramatic increase in breaches. And I think if you talk to most CISOs nowadays, the feedback that we get is that there is an assumption that a breach will happen, not if it will happen, but when it will happen. So a lot of their efforts, their resources in cybersecurity are now focused on how do you mitigate that breach. So if you look at the increase, then you have to look at ways to get ahead of that to prevent the spread of breaches so that when it finally happens, you've lessened the impact. And the other thing that we'll focus on is dwell time. There's an increase in dwell time, the access that a bad actor has to be undetected inside your data center and cloud. So we focus on these 2 areas, and how do we prevent a breach, and how do we mitigate the impact once they actually get in. Okay, so this is the average data center. You're probably familiar with it, where you have in many cases wide open access when someone gets past the perimeter. With that open access, it's not easy necessarily for the bad actor to navigate, but they do have, once they gain a foothold, they have an opportunity to move, if they go through that dwell time, to move undetected. Our approach, our position on how you prevent that from happening is that you take the data center and you get it down to the smallest segments. You get it down to the smallest compartments. In our case, we can segment all the way down to process. We can do environmental segmentation. We can do ring fencing of your crown jewels. But what we're looking to do is actually get the attack surface down to such a point that once someone's come into your data center or cloud, it's immaterial. The breach becomes immaterial because you're able to box them into where they can actually go inside your environment. And you can also find them quicker because you're not looking at thousands of workloads. You're looking at workloads in the hundreds or the tens. And that's really at the crux of where our focus is how do you take that attack surface down to one process, one workload, one application, instead of having to solve for a breach that could go into the tens of thousands. And with that, that is why we built the Illumio Adaptive Security Platform. Our approach is to start with real-time visibility. We look at application dependency mapping, vulnerability mapping to show you where your connections, where you're most vulnerable. Our application dependency mapping tells you what's communicating inside your environment, and then also ultimately to help you make a decision about what should or shouldn't be communicating. And then the end goal is to get to enforcement, is to get to those smallest segmentation compartments that work with your security strategy. And we do that through our software, Micro-segmentation.